proximity of a residential water main riser pipe to an electric service panel raises several safety concerns. An electrical shock hazard is a primary concern. If the water main becomes charged, it could provide a path for electrical current to enter the panel and potentially electrocute someone touching both the panel and the water pipe. Fuse damage is another risk. Excessive moisture can damage fuses within the panel, leading to circuit interruptions or even fires. Damp conditions could accelerate corrosion of electrical components, reducing their lifespan and increasing the risk of failures. There are several code requirements to consider. National Electrical Code, or NEC, Article 110.26 specifies clearance requirements for electrical panels, including a 30-inch wide area of the panel or the width of the panel if greater. NEC Article 250.148 requires the bonding of piping systems to the electrical grounding system to minimize the risk of electrical shock. There are also additional considerations. The panel's location matters. If the panel is located in a bathroom or other wet area, the proximity of the water main may be more concerning. The panel material is another factor. Plastic panel enclosures are less susceptible to corrosion than metal enclosures. Maintenance is important. It is important to regularly inspect the area around the panel for any signs of moisture, corrosion, or damage. Recommendations to mitigate these risks include: firstly, maintaining a sufficient lateral clearance between the water main riser pipe and the electric service panel to mitigate electrical shock hazards. Secondly, ensuring that the piping system is properly bonded to the electrical grounding system. Thirdly, considering using plastic panel enclosures for panels located in wet areas. And fourthly, regularly inspecting the area around the panel for any signs of moisture or damage. Code sections that apply include NEC Article 110.26 regarding electrical panel clearances, NEC Article 250.148 regarding bonding of piping systems, and NEC Article 312.2 regarding damp or wet locations for electrical equipment. The primary concern is the potential for electrical shock if the water main becomes energized due to a fault in the electrical system. The water pipe, if not properly bonded, could act as a conductor and create a dangerous path to ground for anyone who touches it and a grounded object simultaneously. While NEC Article 110.26 focuses on working space and access to the electrical panel, it indirectly addresses safety by ensuring enough room to work safely on the panel without obstruction. This space is not intended as a lateral clearance requirement from other utilities, but it highlights the importance of having unobstructed access. NEC Article 312.2 addresses equipment in damp or wet locations, and while a sweating pipe doesn't automatically qualify the panel location as damp, it certainly increases the risk. If condensation is persistent, it could lead to corrosion and eventual failure of the electrical components within the panel. The grounding and bonding system is crucial in this scenario. If a fault occurs within the panel, a properly bonded water pipe will provide a low impedance path for the fault current back to the source, causing the circuit breaker to trip and energize the circuit. This minimizes the risk of a sustained shock hazard. The absence of proper bonding, however, elevates the risk significantly. The homeowner touching both the panel and the unbonded water pipe could become the path of least resistance for the fault current, resulting in a severe or fatal electrical shock. Consider these points. A risk assessment: evaluate the specific installation. How close is the water pipe to the panel? Is the panel in a naturally damp location? What material is the water pipe? Is the electrical system properly grounded and bonded? Bonding verification: ensure the water pipe is properly bonded to the electrical grounding system according to NEC requirements. This typically involves a bonding jumper from the pipe to the grounding electrode conductor or the metal enclosure of the panel. Insulation: consider adding insulation to the water pipe to minimize condensation and reduce the risk of moisture affecting the electrical panel. Physical barrier: a non-conductive physical barrier between the water pipe and the electrical panel could provide an extra layer of protection. Relocation: if feasible, relocate either the water pipe or the electrical panel to provide adequate separation. Consult with both the qualified electrician and a plumber to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. In addition to the NEC, local plumbing codes may also have relevant requirements. The primary concern is the possibility of creating a shock hazard. Here's a breakdown of the potential hazards. Electrical faults. If there's an electrical fault within the panel and the water pipe is close by, it could become energized. If the pipe isn't properly grounded, it can pose a significant shock risk to anyone who touches it. Moisture and corrosion. Condensation on the water pipe can create a damp environment around the electrical panel. Moisture can lead to corrosion of the panel's components, which can compromise its functionality and safety. Code violations. While there might not be a specific code that directly addresses the proximity of water pipes to electrical panels, it's essential to ensure compliance with general electrical safety codes, such as maintaining proper clearances around electrical equipment. Best practices and recommendations. Maintain a safe distance. Ideally, there should be a reasonable distance between water pipes and electrical panels to minimize the risk of electrical hazards. Consult local codes. Always refer to local building and electrical codes, as they may have specific requirements regarding the placement of utilities. Grounding and bonding. Ensure that the electrical panel and water pipes are properly grounded and bonded. This helps to minimize the risk of electrical shock in case of a fault. Use protective measures. Consider using insulation or a physical barrier between the water pipe and the electrical panel to prevent moisture buildup and electrical conductivity. Regular inspections. Periodically inspect the area around the electrical panel and water pipes for any signs of moisture, corrosion, or damage. Address any issues promptly to prevent potential hazards. Consult professionals. When in doubt, consult with a qualified electrician and plumber to assess the situation and provide appropriate recommendations. Considerations on NEC Article 110.26a. This section of the NEC deals with the working space around electrical equipment. It mandates a certain amount of clear space in front of electrical panels to allow electricians to safely work on them. While it doesn't explicitly prohibit placing other utilities near the panel, it implies that the area should be kept clear of obstructions that could hinder access or create hazards. NEC Article 250.148. This section focuses on bonding requirements for metal piping systems. Proper bonding ensures that if a fault occurs, the metal pipes will provide a low impedance path for the fault current to return to the source, tripping the circuit breaker and minimizing the risk of electrical shock. Considerations for damp locations on NEC Article 312.2. This section addresses the installation of electrical equipment in damp or wet locations. If the area around the electrical panel is consistently damp due to condensation from the water pipe, it could violate this code. Steps to mitigate the risks include: firstly, relocation. If possible, relocate the water pipe or the electrical panel to create more separation between them. Secondly, insulation. Insulate the water pipe to reduce condensation and prevent moisture from affecting the electrical panel. Thirdly, physical barrier. Install a non-conductive barrier between the water pipe and the electrical panel to provide an additional layer of protection. Fourthly, grounding and bonding. Ensure that all metal components, including the water pipe and electrical panel, are properly grounded and bonded in accordance with the NEC. Fifthly, regular inspections. Periodically inspect the area for any signs of moisture, corrosion, or damage. Sixthly, professional assessment. Consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer to assess the situation and provide specific recommendations based on the local conditions and code requirements. When assessing the specific situation with the water main riser pipe being inches away from the side of an electric service panel, a multifaceted approach is essential. The primary concern revolves around safety, specifically the potential for electrical shock and the degradation of electrical equipment due to moisture. Code compliance is paramount, but a practical risk assessment is equally important. Firstly, let's address the safety concerns. Electrical shock hazard. The proximity of a water main to an electrical panel creates a heightened risk of electrical shock. Water is an excellent conductor of electricity, and any fault within the electrical panel could energize the water pipe. If the water pipe is not properly grounded and bonded, Anyone touching both the pipe and the grounded object could become a path for electrical current, resulting in severe injury or death. Moisture and corrosion. Condensation on the water pipe can lead to moisture accumulation around the electrical panel. This moisture can corrode the electrical components, reducing their lifespan and increasing the risk of malfunctions, short circuits, and fires. The presence of dampness can also compromise the insulation of wiring, further increasing the risk of electrical hazards. Now let's talk about code compliance. NEC Article 110.26a. This section of the National Electrical Code NEC specifies the working space required around electrical equipment. It mandates a minimum clear space of 30 inches wide or the width of the equipment if greater and specific clearance is in front of and above the equipment. While this section primarily addresses accessibility for maintenance and repairs, it indirectly relates to safety by ensuring that personnel have adequate room to work without obstruction. The close proximity of a water main can impede this working space and create a safety hazard. NEC Article 250.104a. This section requires the bonding of metal water piping systems to the electrical grounding system. The purpose of bonding is to ensure that the metal piping is at the same electrical potential as the grounding system, minimizing the risk of electrical shock. Proper bonding provides a low impedance path for fault current, allowing the overcurrent protective device circuit breaker or fuse to trip and clear the fault quickly. NEC Article 312.2. This section addresses the installation of electrical equipment in damp or wet locations. If the area around the electrical panel is consistently damp due to condensation from the water pipe, it could be considered a damp location requiring additional protective measures. These measures might include using enclosures rated for damp locations or providing additional insulation and ventilation. Let's talk about practical risk assessment. Grounding and bonding. Verify that the water pipe is properly grounded and bonded to the electrical grounding system in accordance with NEC Article 250.104a. This should be done by a qualified electrician using appropriate testing equipment to ensure the integrity of the grounding connection. Clearance and accessibility. Assess whether the water pipe obstructs the working space required by NEC Article 110.26a. Ensure that there is sufficient clear space around the electrical panel for safe access and maintenance. Moisture levels. Monitor the area around the electrical panel for signs of moisture or condensation. If dampness is present, take steps to mitigate it, such as insulating the water pipe or improving ventilation. Panel condition. Inspect the electrical panel for any signs of corrosion, rust, or other damage. If the panel is in poor condition, it may need to be replaced. Here are some recommendations. Relocation. If feasible, relocate either the water main or the electrical panel to provide a greater separation distance. This is the most effective way to eliminate the risk of electrical shock and moisture damage. Physical barrier. Install a non-conductive physical barrier between the water main and the electrical panel. This barrier can help to prevent moisture from reaching the panel and provide an additional layer of protection against electrical contact. Insulation. Insulate the water main to reduce condensation and prevent moisture from affecting the electrical panel. Use insulation materials that are suitable for use in damp environments and that will not promote corrosion. Upgrade grounding. Ensure that the electrical grounding system is properly installed and maintained. This may involve upgrading the grounding electrode system or adding additional grounding conductors. Regular inspections. Conduct regular inspections of the area around the electrical panel to identify any potential problems early. Look for signs of moisture, corrosion, or damage and address any issues promptly. Professional consultation. Consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer to assess the situation and provide specific recommendations based on the local conditions and code requirements. The electrician can perform a thorough inspection of the electrical system and provide guidance on how to mitigate the risks. Ultimately, the decision of what to do about the water main riser pipe being inches away from the side of an electric service panel will depend on a variety of factors, including the specific configuration of the installation, the local code requirements, and the results of a thorough risk assessment. However, by taking the steps outlined above, you can significantly reduce the risk of electrical shock and moisture damage and ensure the safety of the home's occupants. It's crucial to remember that electrical work can be dangerous, and it should only be performed by qualified professionals who are trained to work safely around electricity. In any electrical installation, safety is paramount. Placing a water main riser pipe in close proximity to an electrical service panel introduces potential hazards that need careful evaluation and mitigation. The NEC provides guidelines to ensure electrical safety, but practical considerations are equally important in such situations. Firstly, let's consider the potential hazards. Electrical shock. The primary hazard is the risk of electrical shock. If a fault occurs in the electrical panel, the nearby water pipe can become energized. Since water is an excellent conductor, anyone touching the pipe could receive a potentially lethal shock, especially if the pipe is not properly grounded. Corrosion and moisture. Water pipes, especially those carrying cold water, can develop condensation. This moisture can corrode the electrical panel and its components, leading to malfunctions and increased risk of electrical faults. Code compliance. NEC Article 110.26 focuses on providing adequate working space around electrical equipment. Although it doesn't explicitly prohibit placing a water pipe next to an electrical panel, it emphasizes the need for clear access and safe working conditions. A water pipe in close proximity can obstruct this space and create a hazardous environment for anyone working on the panel. NEC Article 250.104 mandates the bonding of metal water piping systems to the electrical grounding system. This bonding is crucial to ensure that the piping is at the same electrical potential as the grounding system, reducing the risk of electrical shock. NEC Article 312.2 addresses the installation of electrical equipment in damp or wet locations. If the water pipe causes the area around the electrical panel to become damp, it could violate this code, requiring additional protective measures. Best practices. Assess the specific situation. Determine the exact distance between the water pipe and the electrical panel. Evaluate the grounding and bonding of the water pipe and electrical panel. Check for any signs of corrosion or moisture around the panel. Implement mitigation measures. Relocate the water pipe or electrical panel, if possible. Creating more separation is the most effective way to reduce the hazards. Insulate the water pipe to minimize condensation. Install a physical barrier between the water pipe and the electrical panel. Ensure proper grounding and bonding of the water pipe. Regularly inspect the area for moisture or corrosion. Consult with professionals. Hire a qualified electrician to assess the electrical system and ensure compliance with the NEC. Consult with a plumber to evaluate the water piping system and make any necessary adjustments. Document all inspections, assessments, and corrective actions. Here is a detailed explanation of code compliance. NEC Article 110.26a. While this section doesn't directly address the proximity of water pipes to electrical panels, it's essential to ensure that the water pipe doesn't obstruct the required working space. The working space should be clear and unobstructed to allow safe access for maintenance and repairs. NEC Article 250.104a. This section requires the bonding of metal water piping systems to the electrical grounding system. The bonding connection should be made with a listed bonding clamp or other approved means. The bonding conductor should be sized according to NEC Table 250.102. NEC Article 312.2. If the area around the electrical panel is consistently damp due to condensation from the water pipe, it could be considered a damp location. In such cases, the electrical panel should be rated for damp locations, or additional protective measures should be taken to prevent moisture from entering the panel. Mitigation measures. Relocation. If feasible, relocate the water pipe or electrical panel to create a greater separation distance. This is the most effective way to reduce the hazards. Insulation. Insulate the water pipe to minimize condensation. Use insulation materials that are suitable for use in damp environments and that will not promote corrosion. Physical barrier. Install a non-conductive physical barrier between the water pipe and the electrical panel. The barrier should be made of a material that is resistant to moisture and corrosion. Grounding and bonding. Ensure that the water pipe is properly grounded and bonded to the electrical grounding system in accordance with NEC Article 250.104a. The grounding and bonding should be inspected and tested to verify its effectiveness. Regular inspections. Regularly inspect the area around the electrical panel for moisture, corrosion, or any other signs of potential problems. Address any issues promptly to prevent them from escalating. Professional consultation. Consult with qualified professionals to ensure the safety and code compliance of the electrical and plumbing systems. In conclusion, placing a water main riser pipe in close proximity to an electrical service panel introduces potential hazards that need careful evaluation and mitigation. By following the guidelines and recommendations outlined above, you can minimize the risks and ensure the safety of the occupants.